Welcome to this Innova Systems webinar on the direct editing of imported bodies. I'm just going to jump into SolidWorks and I'm going to open up a file that I've previously created. It's going to be an IGES file and we're going to import that into SolidWorks. So as that pops in, there we go. It's come in as an imported body, we can see there, which is useful as we're going to be doing direct editing of imported bodies. And we're going to run import diagnostics. It's always a good idea to run import diagnostics. SolidWorks is much more sensitive than my eyes at least on broken faces. So for example, it's found a slight problem with that face, so we'll attempt to heal that. Everything's fixed, excellent. I don't want to proceed with feature recognition. Feature recognition turns the imported body into a series of SolidWorks features. As obviously we're looking at imported bodies, I'm going to say no to that. So this is a bracket that I've received from maybe a supplier or a customer, and my brief is to make it a lot smaller, to take out this large radius section and generally trim it down a bit. So I'm going to start by creating a sketch on the top plane, and you'll notice that even though it's an imported body, SolidWorks still has its usual intelligence in recognizing edges and points and faces, which makes the sketching a lot easier for me. So I'm going to create a sketch there. It will come out of that. Then I'm going to use this sketch to split my body. Now the split command does pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It will cut it up into smaller sections. So you can see from this sketch I'm going to cut it into these three sections. So it's automatically selected my sketch because it was selected when I started the tool. Hit cut part and you can see it's given a number of results. So we can see those results there, which are split up as we expected. Now at this point I could just select those two bodies and this body would disappear because I haven't selected to keep it. But that would stop me showing you another tool in just a couple of seconds, so I am going to keep that one as well. You can choose to save these bodies out into separate files if you want to, so we can give them file names and we can save them away. For this particular example I'm not interested in doing that, so I'm just going to hit the tick. So I now have three solid bodies, split 1, split 2 and split 3 as expected. Now I don't want this body in the middle, as I said a second ago, and what I can do is I can use the delete solid surface function to delete it away. The command basically deletes an entire solid body or an entire surface body. So I'm going to hit delete. It's got my body selected, hit the tick and off it goes. It leaves a feature in the feature tree so that if I decide I want it back at some point, if I want to go back to see what shape it was, then it's still there and I could go backwards and forwards to look at it. So I've now got my two bodies, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to join these together. But I want to join them together without these holes. Now there's a command here called delete face. For those of you who do a lot of surfacing, it'll be quite a familiar tool. We hit delete face and we're going to choose the delete and patch option, and quite a nice use of that is I can delete those two faces, let it patch, hit the tick, and essentially the hole is removed. I can then repeat that on the other hole. I can't do them both at once because they are on different bodies and the delete face tool's got to only make edits to one body. In fact, you'll see that's a theme that sort of goes through quite a lot of this webinar. Right, I want to join these two together. Now in order to give myself a nice face to do so, I'm going to use the chamfer command. Now I happen to know that's 25mm and I'm going to choose that edge there. And we can see my preview is giving me a chamfer there. So we'll chamfer that, and then again I'll repeat it on this edge. The chamfer command, like the delete face command, can only do a chamfer on one single body. So we'll hit the tick there. Now I want to butt those two faces up, the two faces I've just created the chamfer, I want to butt them up together. And I'm going to use the move copy body command. So I'm going to move copy bodies. I'm going to choose one of these bodies to copy. Let's go with the left one. I don't want to copy it because I just want to move it. I could work out the XY movement, or sorry, XZ movement, in order to put it there and type in the values. But I don't know them, so I'm going to use the constraints. Now, constraints essentially are mates. So I'm going to choose a coincident constraint between this face and this face. And there we are, it's going to join the two together. If I wanted to put in further constraints, I'd hit the add button and it pops in the bottom here, and then I would continue to add more constraints as necessary. But that one does the whole thing, so we'll hit a tick. Now I want to fillet this corner. So if I choose the fillet command, and we'll go with a fillet of 10, that looks fine. If I select that edge, the preview we get is not quite what we might have expected. And that's because, again, the fillet command can only affect one body. So I'm going to come out of the fillet command and use the combine command, select my two bodies. I want to add them together, and then I'm going to hit the tick. So now that these are one body, when I come back to do the fillet, you can see it's affecting both of them, both sides, which is exactly what I want. I want to change that up to 25, and then we'll hit the tick. So I've filleted that off. Fillet commands, chamfer commands, you can already see are starting to work exactly as you're used to using them, but you just got using them on geometry which SolidWorks doesn't actually know the shape of. So I can continue, come in, do the fillet command, choose a full round fillet. We can select our various faces. And allow it to full round that. And again, we can then repeat that on the other end. They are all one body, but as you probably know, the full round fillet will only do one place at a time. So there we go, we'll fillet that off as well. And we've got our completed new style bracket, all based on this one imported body. And then I've made additional changes to it after that. So what I'm going to do now is move into a different part just to show you some of the other tools on the toolbar. So I'm just going to jump into my desk tidy. Now, this was saved out as an IGES file, re-imported into SolidWorks, and then just saved straight away. So it's exactly the same as if I just moved it in from the IGES, just saves a bit of time. Again, I don't want to proceed with feature recognition. So this is a desk tidy that I've been sent maybe by a customer, which I need to make some modifications to. As we look at it, we can see that this bottom hole clearly isn't right. I mean, it's much thicker than the others. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a tool called Move Face. Now, Move Face is a nice tool which, as you select a number of faces, it will allow those faces to move, to build up essentially with the offset. Or you can rotate the faces depending on what else they're attached to, or translate them, so just move them rather than thicken them. I don't actually want those faces. What I'm going to do is use these faces. So I've taken my inside faces. We're going to choose to offset it not by 10 but by 3. We can see at the moment that's going inboard, which clearly would make it even thicker. So we're going to flip the direction, and then we're going to choose to move the face. And SolidWorks just shifts all of those faces out by the set 3 mil, and we end up with a thinner wall, which is a really nice way to get to where we want to go. Right, my design brief for this was to make 2 of the middle sections. So I want 2 of these middle sections in my part. So first of all, I'm going to split it up. So I'd go to the split command, but before I do that, I want to create some planes to split with. So if you just give me 2 seconds to create those. So I've created my trimming planes. We'll then use the split, and it's pre-selected one of them, but I can select both of them in a single split command, so I don't do all my cutting in one go. So I'm going to click cut part there. It gives me 3 bodies as before, and again I'm going to want all 3 of them. So we'll select those, hit the tick, and we've now got our 3 solid bodies, split 1, split 2 and split 3. I'm just going to hide those planes because it makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on. So in order to get a second one of these middle items in the middle, I'm going to need to move this bar out the way. So again, move copy bodies, select this body on the end. I don't have anything to mate it to. This time I do just want to use the translate command, and I want to move in the X direction by 25, and we get our preview there. If you're not translating, you're rotating, you can put in the angles here. If you want to be a bit more freehand, you can grab hold of the various parts of the triad ball, either to rotate or to move depending on what makes most sense. But in this case, I happen to know what the values are, so I'm just going to type it in. I've never been a freeform person myself. Right, now I want to make a copy of this. I could do it with move copy bodies, type in the distance and tick the copy command. And in fact, what we'll do is we'll just click through those so that you can see the preview. And that then, it doesn't move the original, it puts a copy on the position you've designated. But if I did that, I wouldn't be able to show you the fact that we can use all of our patterns. So even though we're talking about imported bodies, we can still have a look at all of the pattern commands you'd usually get in SolidWorks. In this case, it's a linear pattern. You'll notice the window looks exactly the same. So I'm going to select my edge. I want to go in the other direction. I need to go 25 mil because that's how thick it is. And I'm not talking about features, I'm talking about bodies because I don't have any features. I've only got my imported bodies. So we'll select that, we get the preview, looks about right, hit the tick, allow that to create. So I've now got my 4 bodies now. What I'm going to do is combine them together. So click all 4 of them. Again, I want to add, hit the tick, and we can now get a single body, which is my new, improved, one might say, desk tidy. Now I can move on and carry on adding features to this. So for example, I might want to fill it. I'm only going to want 1 mil. And then we can start filleting the edges of our pen holders in order just to sort of neaten everything up, and then hit the tick there. I could carry on and add further features to it as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into into an assembly just to show you some features there. So we're going to move on to another piece of desk furniture. You may have spotted the theme. Because I am in an assembly, I don't have a direct editing toolbar, even though this assembly was created from a single IGES file, and actually every part in here just consists of a single imported body. What I need to do is actually come in and edit an individual part in context. Don't worry about that message, it's because I've been too lazy to put any mates in since it came in from the IGES file. So I'm now working with a single part, and I can start doing my usual features. So for example, I could choose the split command and then choose a plane. Something to be aware of when I'm working with imported bodies and the split command, I cannot select trim tools from outside of the part I'm editing. So I can't select the right plane of the assembly, no matter how many times I click. I've got to choose the right plane of the part in order to do this split. So we'll click that, we will select both of them, hit the tick. Now at the moment this paper tray is for A4, so if I want to make it for A3 I need to move the bodies around. So I can take this body, I can move it 100 and hit the tick. So we've now moved our bodies apart. You may notice that my second tray is also following the same actions. It's because they're identical parts, just in different locations. And then finally we can do a move face. We can select this slither face here, and again we can add 100, hit the tick, and then finally we just need to stick those 2 bits back together again. So there we are, we'll combine that and edit the component, and we've got both of our trays have updated. We can then start using some standard SolidWorks assembly functionality just to make these back together. So if I choose the make command, it's going to give me a concentric. And then we can repeat that for these 2. There we go. So the make commands all work in very much the same way. So that's at assembly level. You have to do in context editing in order to get to your bodies. So I'm going to jump back to my desk tidy just to have a quick chat through or run through all of the features. So move face is a command which allows you to take a selection of faces, and usually you'll be offsetting them if you're working with solids, and sort of move them out or resize wall thicknesses with that tool. Really handy, you don't need to think too much about it, it just does it for you. Move copy bodies, when you have a body it allows you to move it all around, move them to where you want them, rotate them, twist them round, all of that, and allows you to also copy at the same time if you want to. The Phillip command and the chamfer command, they work exactly the same as they do in SolidWorks for normal geometry, but you're working on the imported bodies directly. Linear pattern, again, we've got all of our patterns exactly as they are in SolidWorks. They work in the same way. You're just working with imported bodies. Delete solid surface, really handy tool. Get rid of the bits you don't want once you've cut your parts up, or get rid of surface bodies which are unnecessary in your imported geometry. Delete face. For those, like I said before, for those of you who do surfacing, a really familiar tool. Works in exactly the same way as it would if you're doing surfacing. Allows you to get rid of faces and turn solids into surface bodies to either then move on into the other SolidWorks tools, or for those of you more familiar with solids, to get rid of additional holes and things like that you don't want from your imported body. Split allows you to do exactly what it says on the tin. Cut your part up into separate sections so you can manipulate them individually and then potentially create additional geometries, so join everything back together again, which you'll be using the combine tool for. Combine tool takes multiple bodies, sticks them all together. If they are in contact, if they are independent bodies that don't touch, you can't combine them, you've got to actually join them together. Also allows you to do subtract features where you take one particular body. So for example, you may have received an imported body from, or an imported part from a supplier, and you know you've got to make an indentation or an impression in it with something else. You could then bring in a part into your imported body and subtract the material. Quite a nice little function. And then there's also within a combine tool, there's the common function where you put two parts and you can keep the overlapping area. Works exactly the same way as it does in SolidWorks. Now, a lot of other CAD tools have currently been saying, oh, direct editing, the next big thing, aren't we amazing, we've got it. SolidWorks haven't really been making the same noise, partly because we've had direct editing tools for ages. We've even had a direct editing toolbar for 2 years. It arrived in SolidWorks 2010. So next big thing, maybe for them, we've had it for a couple of years. So go SolidWorks. Right. Thank you very much for watching. We've got some future webinars coming up. In a week's time, we've got Matthew doing DIM Expert 3D Geometric Tolerancing for those of you who've got to have really accurate parts. In a fortnight, we've got using the SolidWorks Design Checker to check your designs are up to a particular standard. And the 20th September, we've got Miles doing using the SolidWorks costing tools for machining and sheet metal. So look forward to those. Does anybody have any questions on the current webinar? If you can't think of them now, think of them later, feel free to send us an email at support@innovasystems.co.uk or phone us on the number on screen. Right, I have had a question about whether SolidWorks treats the offset surface tool as solids or as surfaces. The quick answer is, if you're using solids, it'll treat them as solids. If you're using surfaces, it'll treat them as surfaces. So what I'm going to do, if you just give me 2 seconds, I'm going to very quickly create a very simple surface body, save it as an IGES and load it back in again, just to show you what it does with imported surfaces. So just give me 2 seconds to knock this up. Stick my surface toolbar on. So I'm just creating a very quick surround here, and then I'm going to save that out as an IGES file. This is the same technique I used to create the imported bodies for this demonstration. So save those as an IGES. We'll close that. No, I don't need the original. So I've got that there, import diagnostics. In this case, I'm actually going to ignore these gaps because if I choose attempt to heal all, in fact, I'll show you just so you can see what it does. It sees the big squares as gaps and fills them in, which doesn't do what I want. So I'll just Control Z and we'll get rid of those. So on the direct editing toolbar, if I'm moving face, if I do a move face, if I do an offset of, for example, this face by 10 mil, hit the tick, it moves the face by 10 mil and it extends the others to match because it's all one surface body. So this is what I'm saying. If it's a solid, it'll offset it and make the solid thicker. If it's surface, it offsets the surface as a surface. So I hope that answers your question. If there are no more questions, thank you very much for watching, and I hope we'll see you again.